Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the second half of our double hit tonight on the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network. 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is where it's at. And I'm going to go ahead and let you know the crew. We got Jacob Christner. Welcome back, Jacob.
Hey, what's going on?
George Icorn, GE. We bring good things to life. All right, go ahead. Had to do that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Going
Good
old
to be
school with
back.
that one.
What's that?
Going old school with that one. We bring good things to life.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll go old school, new school. Who cares what school?
Yeah.
We're going school. And Jordan Long has been our staple here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Always love his insight about the Diamond doings.
Thank you for having me again, Scott.
You're very welcome. And Eric Katz. Okay. Here's Eric.
Good to see you.
Great to see you too. So, all right. Well, you know what? We only have 3 topics and we have a really special one after that. So, and Jacob knows where I'm coming from, and the rest of you guys are going to know too. But you know what? Over the weekend, I had an opportunity to see the Marlins and the Yankees on Sunday. But boy, what a series it was! You know, we know the Yankees took the first game 9-4 on Friday night, but boy, was it interesting. On Saturday, with Sandy Alcantara threw a complete game in Miami's 3-1 win on, as I mentioned, Saturday. And of course, on Sunday, despite 6 solid innings, Garrett Cole obviously watched the Yankees bullpen implode as Miami scored 5 runs in the 9th inning to earn an 8-7 triumph, winning 2 of 3 games. It was Miami's 31st comeback win of the year. Also, Miami won at the gate at Lone Depot Park, a record for a 3-game series, 100,001. This could be. I think this could lead the Marlins to the playoffs. I really do. I mean, you need one big signature win all year. And let's not kid ourselves that the Marlins bested the Yankees in the 2003 World Series, for which Miguel Cabrera and company was in. So, Jacob, what are your thoughts about what took place over the weekend down here in Miami?
Well, you know something? It's like you think about the first half that we talked about. We've been 12 over 500, still about 7 out from Atlanta. But they were rolling. It was looking at. Then they struggled. A bit, and you wonder if there's going to be a complete collapse. I mean, they got to about 3 over 500. Excuse me. They got to about 3 over 500. Then you get to the Yankees, and then they lose the first game, right. And then you win the second. But then the Miami of the past, in the last couple of years, especially being down 5. Being down 4 or 5, being down 4, with that whole thing, with the chance, go 1, 2, 3 and out. That was just their thing. This team, it doesn't matter if they make the playoffs, though. They can go 81-81. I mean, Kim Ing's built the team. She's good. She's probably getting herself an extension now. She's built something for a future that's going to lead to 90 wins, 100 wins, 95. Especially with the people that they have right now, Alcantara, Arias, with these guys, you can build around that, right. And that is going to be huge for the future. It doesn't. I mean, they make it as a bonus, but it's the future that you're looking at now. You can go after, and I'm just saying this. You can put yourself in the running with something like this for a guy like Ohtani. It is Miami after all. So who knows?
Okay. All right. Oh, that's fair. Okay, George.
Yeah, it was very impressive. Very impressive. The Marlins taking 2 out of 3. Like you said, Scott, it's like a signature win, a signature series for them so far this year. We all know the Yankees have had so many struggles this year, but still, you're able to do that. And like you said, drawing over 100,000 fans. That is the magic number in any weekend series. Well, possibly not New York. Of course, they have a bigger stadium. But for the stadiums like in Detroit and Miami and even Coors Field, I mean, when you can draw over 100,000 for 3 games, you're doing something damn good. Because I remember many times the Tigers struggled to get that many people, but they were able to do so when they had winning teams. So for all the reasons Jacob just mentioned, great young talent, good manager, good coaching staff, good future for the Marlins. I think it was a fantastic series for baseball down in South Florida, a fantastic weekend. I'm glad.
Okay, turn over to Jordan.
You look at this series, and the Yankees, won, and then obviously the Marlins won 2 out of 3. But look at the last game, down that much and to come back to score 5 runs. I mean, like you were saying, Scott, this is a team that wants to get the playoffs. You need to have a signature win. This could be their signature win to boost them into a playoff position. I know the Yankees aren't the Yankees of the past, but it's still a team that is above 500, who is still trying to make some noise in the American League wildcard standings. But at least the Marlins were, they needed this win and the series win to, say that this is a playoff team. We are for real.
Okay, Mr. Yankee. I have no choice. All right, Eric, what's your take on what happened over the weekend?
Well,
if you care to.
no, I will. I could
By the
probably.
way, before you say anything there, Skip Schumacher, I hated to see Don Mattingly go, but Skip Schumacher, first-year manager, has done a pretty good job. Go ahead, Eric.
100%. Skip Schumacher was, I personally thought it was a great hire when they made the hire because he had spent all that time in the St. Louis Cardinals organization where he knows how to put together a team on the field. He knows how to develop a team and put a core in place and ultimately develop the players around him to get that core going. It's kind of the Cardinals kind of have the same philosophy as the Marlins do now. Because now with Kim Ng in charge, the Marlins actually have a direction. They never had that under the regime of Jeffrey Luria and David Sampson. They just never had it. They would think they were trying to develop a minor league thing, then they would go out and sign a bunch of free agents thinking that would get them over the top. They kind of lucked into a World Series in 2003 where they just happened to like, the previous regime before them happened to make up some trades of some guys that turned out to be pretty good down the stretch before they inevitably enough fire sailed the whole thing like the Marlins have been known for doing. But I think now with Kim Ng, they actually have a direction. They're dedicated toward player development. They're willing to add when necessary, which they were able to add Jorge Soler. I know Avisail Garcia is not working out there, but they were able to add him and kind of see if he'd fit in the core, which right now he doesn't. They've developed a really, really good pitching staff. I mean, Alcantara is not the Alcantara of last year, but still, you have an ace-like pitcher at the top of your rotation, and you also have a young Yuri Perez who's just dynamite. It's also allowed Luzardo to really step in there and be able to be a solid contributor to that rotation. And then also they were able to kind of make the moves down the stretch to get David Robertson, which not going to be not a flashy move, but still a move where you get yourself a pretty good closer who just gets the job done. No harm, no foul. But overall, though, with the crowd, and I think baseball this year has just done a fantastic job of just coming back. It's been kind of lagging and struggling for the longest time. But I think, I read something somewhere saying baseball attendance was up 9.3%. I think part of that too is the new rules where, there's constant action, which that's just what the generation now that goes to the ballpark more often than not want. They want constant action. And I think that's part of it too. And also, with the Marlins, I think eventually part of it is it's not totally on the Marlins. Part of it is just the location of the stadium where, Michael Kay made this great analogy where imagine the Deegan in New York City, 5 miles away from the ballpark. That you can imagine, as some of you who have been in New York or have lived in New York or whatever, you could probably use your imagination on how big of a disaster that would be. That's the Marlins situation right now with the location of the stadium, where they were kind of boxed in there, but wanted to stay in Florida. But you have to know though that I think the Marlins are putting together something special on the field. I think people inevitably enough will start to come to the ballpark because this is not the Jeffrey Luria Marlins anymore, where the guy defrauded a county and then would just spend to spend, wouldn't do anything with his minor league system, thinking just throw something at the wall and hope it sticks, which inevitably enough it would fall off the wall. And his team did nothing after 2003. But
hey, Eric, I wanted to say this real fast also. I wanted to bring this. You want to know how gutsy it was to put Kim – I'm just saying, I would brought up King. You know how gutsy it was to do it during the time when they did? They had just won a playoff series. You know, against the Cubs. I know it was the bubble series, but it was still, they won a series, got themselves improved with the original GM. They put her in right in the middle of complete and utter strife. Complete strife. You know, there was the riots, the everything, the Me Too's, everything was going at once. It put her to the world that you'd see online. It made it just look like a diversity hire, everything like that. She overcame it.
Well, I agree because number one, I like even minus all the political unrest and all that. I like the hire to begin with because she's more than qualified to do the job.
30 years.
Yes, she worked for the league office. She worked for the Yankees at one point as their assistant GM, and I believe she won a World Series ring or two with the Yankees. And she was a big part of that decision making, I believe, either Bob Watson or Brian Cashman. It doesn't matter, but still, she was in those meetings about who to get. And she, I like the hire to begin with. Michael Hill was not long for that job. Derek Jeter just kept him because he had no choice but to keep him because when COVID hit, everybody put everybody. I think you could probably argue every single business in the world put on a hiring freeze, and Derek Jeter had no one else to go to. So he's like, because originally he was trying to gut out the entire Luria Sampson regime, like everybody in that front office, including, for better or worse, Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin.
I didn't like the hiring, but I'll admit this: it wasn't because of her. I've known just as much as you about her past and how good she is. I wanted her on the White Sox or someone that with a I didn't want her in a Miami where you could give any excuse to sandbagger and say when they don't give anything. I didn't want her. I wanted her on the White Sox or someone classic to give that a shot. But I'm glad Miami's working out.
All right, let me go to the chat room. Okay, I love the conversation. Eric, you want to say one more thing before I go to the chat room? Go ahead.
I mean, as far as Miami went, I mean, it's not like Kim Ng. It's not like other people, other women, whatever, were hired out of nowhere just because it's a diversity hire, blah blah blah. No, Kim Ng had conversations with other teams before to be their general manager, so she wasn't a complete unknown, and she had been around the league, as you said, Jacob, over 30 years. She's more than qualified to do the job. I think under the right ownership, which right now is Bruce Sherman, I think Bruce Sherman's done a good job at allowing her to really stretch out. Would it have happened under Stamps and Luria? I don't think so.
Right.
Even if she was hired.
Let's go to the chat room. First of all, I'll just put them up. George Eichhorn, you're going to read them.
All right, kneecap biting. Good evening. You too.
Next. George.
All right. Miami needs to just play slightly above 500 ball the rest of the way. Then who knows?
I disagree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Onward we go.
Cubs are getting strong.
Also, the Reds.
And Candy, thank you, Candy, for joining us. Oh, she's got a final score here, folks. Miami 5-1 over the Houston Astros.
They're also in the wild card right now, too. They got the final spot.
All right, Derek, hold on. Okay, I know you're on a great roll.
There you go. If the season ended today, Candy says the Marlins would be in with the last wild card spot, leapfrogging the Cubs and the Reds.
There you go, Eric.
With the balance that team has, both because I originally didn't like the move when they traded for Josh Bell. I thought it was, considering what he had done in Cleveland, he had been pitiful in Cleveland. But, he's actually been – I think the change of scenery has actually helped them. He's actually given them some pop over at first base. And so I think that the trade, it was a trade that I didn't like at first when it was made. But, I was wrong.
All right, let me go over some things really quickly. 186 Baseball Talk being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the show of 186 Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? Feel free to participate in the chat room. That's one way to get on. And also send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And if anyone wants to be a permanent guest, okay, reach out to me by email, and I'd love to talk to you. One of the things that we look for when we add permanent people is we want somebody that has a strong social media background that could go ahead and share this show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and everywhere. Because social media, unlike the days when George and I were in the industry or the stations did it, we really feel that a strong social media background is a great way to get yourself in here on a permanent basis. And I do want to let everybody know that I will be making more sweeping changes after I'm done with my writing of the book. So you're going to see a lot of new faces over the next 4 to 6, 8 weeks and beyond. So I want to expand this platform to as many people as I can. I love loyal crews, but I also am very open to new faces that provide fresh ideas and are compassionate and passionate about using every tool in their box to promote and be proud of what they do. So take it for whatever it's worth. So if you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter at Tribune South. Kenny Ebling is behind the scenes, and she's on here with us tonight. With that said, okay, now go ahead, Jacob. You have something you want to add?
Nope. Just was no. There was someone. I was just keeping them quiet. I'm keeping the noise down.
Oh, that's okay. You're good. I'll tell you, Jacob Christner is obviously the newest member of the Professor and the Pupil, and we'll be adding some good wrinkles to that show as well.
All I can say with you two is you need to have like one of those AI smoky things like the old 1980s newsrooms and stuff like that. Have some smoke around you. Have a little bit of the typewriters going.
Hey, George, I think Jacob needs to be educated about what we went through at WXYZ. Go ahead.
Teletype, rip and read. I know all that stuff, Jacob. So does Scott.
I know.
We prepared sports news back in the day. Rip and read, as some people call it on the news. But yeah, right. The smoke-filled rooms, Jacob, that came from like owners and general managers getting together.
Right.
Yeah, remember that smoke-filled room kind of thing?
Yeah, I saw. Before anything, I saw a little thing, like a little clip on YouTube. Frank Reynolds was getting ready for like a broadcast, and it showed everybody having smoke in there, and then click, clack, 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 and everybody cussing. Everybody, it felt like the old days.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, Jacob? Here's the deal, man. Anytime you go ahead and bring up Frank Reynolds' name, you always score points with me, pal. That's all I have to say.
I'm good. I'm gonna have 40 points by now.
Yeah, you're up there. And you're gaining more by the second. All right. 2 more topics to get to before we get to the my real toy here on this broadcast. The Atlanta Braves explode for 27 runs to demolish the Mets Saturday night doubleheader, 21-3 in the opener. Of course, you wonder if that's an NFL score, anyways. Or 6-0 in the nightcap, which might be 2 field goals if you're thinking the NFL. The Mets were shut out for the 13th time this season, and they did happen to win 8-7 over the Braves, but not what Steve Cohen expected this season, right, Jacob?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you this: the Braves are going to make it 28-3, but it wasn't a win. So hey, it's still. But the big thing is the Braves are a monster. They are an absolute. I live here. I see this through all the time. It's like someone's asking me in their little quote-unquote struggles, which is basically a couple of 2 out of 3 losses. If they're coming back, oh, my God, that's going to be about 105, 106 win team. They're ridiculous. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, you start with Ronald Acuna. You keep going to things. They have like 2 or 3 power hitters straight. You go, it's just ridiculous. Spencer Strider is going to have a huge playoff. He's already at like 15 strikeouts per 9 innings, like an all-time record. Like per 9, he's absurd. And then you have Max Fried. They are just loaded to bear. And then what if they would get? Then what if they have a chance at Ohtani? Oh my God, it's not even fair. That becomes the Southern Yankees. Be able to get everybody. So no, I mean it was ridiculous what they were able to do to the Mets, but they're just that much better. They will do this to other teams, not just bad ones. They're just the very best in baseball.
Okay, we'll turn it over to George.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest embarrassments I've seen in a long time. That giving up 21 runs. What a sad turn of events in New York involving the Mets. Cohen is obviously the one that went all in, getting guys like Verlander and Scherzer, and look at how it's fizzled. And then conversely, Atlanta, like you said, Jacob, I mean, what a wonderful franchise that's become. They've always been good. They had some down years, of course, after Bobby Cox left, but they're really, really right at the top of the game right now. The thing is they don't want to peak too early. You don't when you're running away with things like that. Trust me, we saw it. We saw it in hockey this year. We saw it in other sports. Boston Celtics We saw it over the years in the NBA. You know, those teams that run away, they sometimes fall flat on their face in the playoffs. So they've got to stay sharp. They've got to stay focused, but they've got to also realize that the second season begins when the calendar starts flipping into the month of October. We all know that second season is the one that really, really counts. Not what you necessarily do in the first part, which is the regular season. But Atlanta, I don't see anybody beating them this year, but you never know. The Dodgers are still hungry, and there's other teams out there as well. So, but hats off to Atlanta, and what a sad sack the Mets have become.
And
Hey, Jordan.
the thing is, I had said last year, I picked that the Dodgers were going to be out early because of the lulls they would get in different spots. It's not losing that causes lulls. It's just little flat lines that they get, whether it's in pitching, whether it's in hitting. Atlanta doesn't have flat lines. They don't get flat lines. Even if they lose like 11, they still have 5. They don't flat line anywhere. You have a bad game, they're still scoring. They have a bad hitting game, they're still 2-1. Yeah. It's like they don't flat line anywhere. They've got everything. And the Dodgers did not have that. That's the difference last year.
Okay, I want to turn it over to Jordan.
You know, we looked at the Mets earlier this season thinking, oh, this is a team that bought a championship team. Of course, we know how that ended up. They ended up trading Justin Verlander and a couple of other pieces. If you look at the Atlanta Braves, they are a monster right now. They've got great pitching. They've got hitting. Great defense. The only thing that I see about Atlanta, though, is like George was saying, it's the regular season. What can you do in the playoffs? Are they the team to beat? I would say so right now, but once you get into especially in the division series, a short 5-game series, anything is possible. But for right now, the Braves are definitely the favorite to win the World Series just because of what they're doing this year so far.
All right, Eric, you get the final word on this one.
Oh boy. Well, since we're talking about the Mets, I like to with the Mets, I knew that especially given last year that cracks in the foundation were showing, but with the Mets over the years, and for those who have been alive going back post 1986, I like to equate the Mets as the old Saturday Night Live sketch, Mr. Bill. They mean well, but every time they try and do something bad happens to them. Yes, every time something could fall on him, something could cut him, something could crush him. No matter what, something bad happens to him to the point now with the Mets, it's almost sad. And given they called it a repurposing, no, it was a fire sale, Billy. It really was. Which you could probably call Billy Epper literally Mr. Bill if you wanted to. But with the Braves though, that is a general manager's dream. Where you have a really, really freaking good team with a bunch of controllable assets who aren't going to be free agents for a long while. You have that for years to come. And don't forget, people, you forgot to mention Charlie Morton in that pitching staff. The guy may be getting up there in age, but man, he definitely helps that young staff along. Not the ace by any means, but having somebody to lean on him for experience, you got that going for your rotation. So let's not forget about that. And the guy could still catch batters up with his Bugs Bunny junk with the best of them.
Okay, well, don't forget Brian Snitker is a pretty good manager too.
100%.
Just in case you want to know.
I mean, yeah, it takes the manager. The manager ultimately has to push the buttons, and you literally have a general manager's dream. This team right now has no holes anywhere, nothing. Zilch. This team could be the next dynasty. I think they could be the next dynasty.
And most of all, they are and I've met a few of them. I've met a few of them, yes. They are class. And after the Wander Franco ridiculousness that's going on right now, you need a full-class team, and then they stay a long time. They're going to be the toast.
Well, here's the thing. The Braves aren't peaking. They aren't peaking too early. Unlike the Rays, which they peaked very early, and we've seen it now because there's a reason they're no longer in first in the AL East. The Braves, yes, they've dominated the NL East, which the NL East is not very strong to begin with. So the Braves could play baseball with their eyes. They could face 95+ mile an hour fastball with their eyes closed, and I think they'd still be in first place. But
they'd still have 5 home runs.
Yes, probably, maybe even more. But but the thing is, Brian Snitker. Keep in mind, he took an 88 win team 2 years ago to the World Series. No one expected him to do that. With almost this very same team, with the exception of Freddie Freeman being gone. But shoot, they replaced him with Matt Olson, who's not a bad player to begin with 40 plus bombs at this point. But they are literally a general manager's dream. They are the definition of doing your job perfectly, and it goes better than you ever could imagine.
Okay, and one more thing I want to get to tonight before we take care of some company business. Okay, Texas Rangers manager Bruce Bochy got a standing ovation in his return to Oracle Park in San Francisco. Well deserved. He won 3 World Series titles in Frisco, and I got to tell you, San Francisco acknowledges its sports heroes and is still cherishing Barry Bonds. Well, had to mention him. Okay, he's got to be liked somewhere, even if he isn't liked practically anywhere else. But some thoughts, Jacob, about the love that Bruce Bochy's getting in San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, it's a reminder of that. That's basically the West Coast version of the St. Louis Cardinals, who they give standing ovations. They'll give standing ovations to the towel boy if he goes over to like the Reds. It's like, and this is the whole situation. And if you're remembered for winning 3 World Series. And it's like, and they're going to get that standing ovation considering where they've gone. And it's like, and even though Bruce Bochy's getting old, there are fans that would say, I want him back.
Right.
I'd love him because he's still there. So yeah, they're going to give something like that. And then of course, here's the thing: the Cardinals had said, I want the Albert Pujols back. They got him to say goodbye. So that's the big thing that a lot of the fans are going to really, especially when they're struggling like that. They basically want people are getting older. I mean, I just saw a video of Hulk Hogan this weekend. He had to be held up by his own wife. He had to be held up. I mean, even though with the muscles and everything, his back is gone. He had to be held up, and it's like he's 70 years old. And it's like when you watch age, it's tough. You still want to think somebody is that young guy, with that kind of gumption. But something, we all retire, we all go, we all have our stories, and we all die. And that's the big thing about it is we want to be able to give that the thank you. We want to be able to do that. And yes, there's always that wishful thinking that they stay young. But if they don't and they have to get it, thank you for everything.
All right, George.
Yeah, Bruce Bochy is a great guy, great manager. They recognize that. They had some fantastic years, like you said, in the Bay Area. They got good fans, that's for darn sure. And he's a surefire Hall of Famer. That's a given in my book. So Bruce is welcome back, and doesn't surprise me at all. He's a great, like I said, he's a great guy. He knows the game inside and out, and has had a wonderful career behind the bench. So I'm really, really happy for him. I've never had anything bad to say about him or write about him, because I think he's a class act when it comes to baseball managers.
Hey, Jordan.
He definitely deserves the hometown welcome. I mean, you look at what he did for San Francisco: 3 World Series titles, and took them to the playoffs 4 times. Of course, they lost to the Chicago Cubs in the division series, but either way, he definitely deserves the hometown welcome, because if not for him, they wouldn't have 3 World Series titles hanging out when he was the manager. And I do agree with George Eichhorn. He definitely deserves a spot in Cooperstown as one of the best managers to ever manage this Major League Baseball game. But of course, we know that the Hall of Fame, they don't put necessarily the best people in, but he definitely deserves a spot. There's no doubt.
Eric?
I mean, what better manager to come back to Oracle Park? I mean, he is the reason why the Giants were able to get those World Series rings. He's had success everywhere he's gone. People forget, though, he had, aside from that stretch again, that stretch in San Diego, which wasn't his fault. That was ownership being the then ownership being cheap at the time. But he's literally been successful everywhere he's gone. Had that success in San Diego, where he took them to the World Series in 1998, where they got absolutely smacked, but still. But then he moves on to San Francisco and gets them 3 World Series rings. Yeah, and then he also was able to take them back in 2016 to the playoffs. And given the success he's having in Texas now, Bochy deserves every positive thing you can have in San Francisco. They remember you from winning 1. 2, you're a legend. 3, you're immortal. Bruce Bochy is plenty immortal in San Francisco. I mean, but still, the guy is still plenty young. I mean, given how successful the Rangers have been this year, I'm sure he feels a lot younger. And judging how a while back he went after the umpire, don't worry, he hasn't aged. And but all in all, happy to see Bochy get his due. The guy's going to get into the Hall of Fame, and there is no one and nobody is more deserving of the love and support from San Francisco than Bruce Bochy.
No question about it. The only thing I'm going to add to this is this. Bruce Bochy deserves everything he gets in San Francisco. But just say he does win one in Texas. The Texas Rangers, okay.
Well, it'll be without Jacob deGrom, that's for sure.
And that too. We'll get
Ron Washington nearly did.
Yeah, but
right.
Ron nearly. But let's just say Bruce Bochy breaks through. Not only will he be iconic, okay, in San Francisco, but Dallas, winning for the Texas Rangers, a team that has gone through 2 stadiums where you would get killed in the summer playing in them. Now they got their third and last part. Can you imagine how well honored he'll be in the metropolitan Dallas area?
That's one of the longest droughts, Scott. Yeah, the Washington Senators / Texas Ranger drought. Yeah,
absolutely. It just makes you wonder, as if he isn't already a Hall of Fame manager, just add a world championship to the Texas Rangers, and then you take iconic to an entirely different level.
He'd be
all right.
Just imagine if he did the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Oh well,
that'd be that's what Mark Mancini dreams about every night when he goes to bed.
Bill Verdon recreated.
And don't forget Ralph Williams, he's there too. But no, if he did it for the Pittsburgh Pirates, I'll be rewriting for that song "Searching for a Miracle" 9 million times over.
We would never
not going any detail than that. All right. Next thing I want to get to is something I really feel very good about, and that's this. Okay, Pundit's opening act was Thursday, August 10th. And I am proud to mention that they are part of the South Florida Tribune Broadcasting Network and South Florida Tribune. My expectations of it are it will hopefully produce writers and editorialists like one of the guys on my screen who likes to write. But Jacob's going to preview next Thursday's show, the 24th. And also, I want to give an update on the audio providers that we have so far. We've got Spotify, we have Apple, we have Google, Sleeper is Geo7. I think we have about 10 or 11 of them so far. Those are the 4 that stand out, and I'll continue to convey updates as we go along. But the fact that we have Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio on top of our Spreaker platform and Geo7, my goal is to make sure that Pundit, like every show that we do on this platform, has an audio reach, which I think is just as important as a visual reach. Because let's face it, not everybody can go out there and watch it. So use your mobile devices to go in your favorite podcast place and look for Pundit. And you're going to find that we own it here at the Tribune. Obviously, it's Jacob's show, but we just want to make sure that Sideline Sports did an outstanding job building this show from scratch and giving it a platform. And I'm so proud of our partners at Sideline for doing it. But my goal here is to make sure that we take Pundit and do everything in our power to try to transition it to places it hasn't been so far. Jacob, what do you want to add to this?
I'm going to add something like this to it. I had Jordan before and stuff like that, so Jordan knows this whole thing. And Eric, I don't know if you've seen the show yet. George is on it also, and I'm really proud to see George and Scott on this. All the experience right there. I feel proud. I've always been very proud to have you around, Jordan. Everything, but Jordan Long knows what I expect on something like this. This isn't meathead ball. This isn't scores. This isn't I'm better than you, and stuff like that. I'll give an example. We're doing the one next week. It's called Kung Lee versus UFC. It is the class action lawsuit about pay for fighters. We talk about those type of things. We talk about the women's sports that are advancing in this world and how high it's getting. We get to the story before it gets bigger. Sometimes we'll check something and we'll get to it before it's bigger. And then we've talked about it quite a few times, quite a few things. We talked about, remember the ABA deal before, Scott? Remember the ABA thing we talked about before they had all of their Hall of Fame stuff, and then they got it. I'm not saying it's all us, but we talked about those things like this. We don't bring up meathead. We are bringing up the future of sports. What's going on? I really believe that we might be a lower produced version of Outside the Lines, but we're a better version. We're a better version because we have no political aspect. We talk everybody, give everything. Jordan has been a big help with it. Jordan gave me a big story on the Kentucky Derby. Yeah, what they were doing with the Kentucky Derby. He's finding that Jordan understands. Everybody here, I mean, George has given me a story or two, just what he's getting. He's done it already. He's gave me a story or two already, which is awesome. Scott's gives a pile. And it's like, this is about the future of what's going on. This is all streaming. This is going to be the end, like I said, the end of football, in inclement weather. The end of terrestrial TV. We're going all streaming pretty soon. This is those types, and we talk about it. We don't have to fight, argue, yell, scream. We don't have to be Stephen A. Smith times 5. We don't have to do all that. We discuss. We talk. We get the stories out there. We take all this type of thing. That's what the Pundit's Pundit is, and I'm proud of it.
Let me add a couple of things that we're hoping to add to this show as time goes on. First of all, we made the decision to add Candy Ebling to the show, as well as Jennifer Matthews-Lewis.
Oh, now I miss her too.
Yeah,
I love it.
But those two ladies are going to provide an incredible element. The one thing I do want to see out of Pundit's Pundit, well, it will not only be a sports type of show, there will be non-sports related topics as well. I think it's important that you show a lot of versatility so that way we can gain a larger audience. And that's where, the depth chart that we have right now, okay? And, there might be times I have to promote my book. There might be times that George has to do things. But when you got 7 strong, for gosh sakes, there's no way you can have a bad show even if you wanted to because of the quality of the talent that we have here. But the reality is this, okay? Jennifer and Candy are going to be huge. And obviously, Jordan, you know what it's like to be on this show, so nobody has to tell you anything. Jacob, George, and I have worked together on the Sports Exchange, Basket Bros, and Denzel is Denzel. The guy's phenomenal anyway.
Oh, and Denzel's our hype guy. He is the hype machine. He is the hype machine. He is. I like to say I hype things. He blows me away.
Oh yeah, he certainly does.
The one thing about Denzel too that I'm also going to be doing, and I talk about things that there's a strong chance he's going to be the 3rd or 4th member on Professor and the Pupil, because again, when you have Jacob, Denzel, and I that work together, you can't have when you work with 3 guys where everyone's going to talk about the way they are. You have to go out there and keep continuity with what's worked. And I think that's the thing that as I continue to redevelop this format, in addition to what my responsibilities over at Eagle Communications as president over there, to build that broadcasting division from scratch, but also continue to enhance what we're doing. That's what I love about the challenge. So, I'm going to mention Candy Ebling, great point, boy, and she nailed this one. Go ahead, Jacob.
I wanted to bring, and yes, you do. You bring the women's perspective. And women know more about sports than they ever have. And you look at the thing, look at sport, look at women's basketball. Say this, George and Scott, watch a women's basketball game. How many women do a push shot like this anymore? They're shooting 25 feet like this, like men.
Yeah, and we talked about that last show. Right.
Yep, we brought this. And here's this little story here, and we brought this up. It has to do with the thing. It says, Royal star Bobby Witt Jr. raced for an inside-the-park home run in 14.3 seconds tonight. 4th fastest in history. 14.3 seconds. We have had, and Jordan knows this too, we've had discussions on how athletic people are getting and the type of training there is now. And it's like, and you know something? 14.3 in the next year or 2 will be blown away. There'll be like a Ronald Acuna that just blows away. Who knows? It could be this year.
There's always,
you don't know. Everybody is the most athletic you ever see. Records will fall and they'll go bust, but we're going to be there for it.
Well, the biggest thing that I want to emphasize here, okay, is our chat room is going to be active with at least so far 7 people, which I think is more than enough as far as the depth chart. But the ideas that go in and out of that chat room here, everybody's idea is as important as everyone, because we know at some point we don't have stupid people on this platform. We just don't. Am I bragging about it? You're darn right I'm going to brag about it because I know what I've got. I do. And I'll continue, as I mentioned throughout these last couple of shows tonight, to find the best people and continue to bring on guests in some situations where I need to on not only this show, but other shows that are strong. And I'm not going to get into a list of our shows. You want to do that, go to our www.southfloridatribune.com and look under the broadcast, WSFT broadcast. You'll see them all there. But I'm proud of what we have here. And our goal is, you know what? We'll take the week off because, I want to make sure we provide more audio providers and an update next Thursday when we go on. But I am going to take a 5-day break here in an effort to try to reconnect with my Detroit connections. George knows that we're certainly going to have business meetings with a few of them up there. But I want to come back fresh as much as I'm capable of. And I don't know whether that's going to be, who knows what the heck that is anyways, to make sure that, we're loaded on both the South Florida Tribune as well as Eagle Communications. And I'm proud to be the president of that broadcasting division with Dr. Edwin Hernandez. And we have a lot of plans. And of course, just so you know, over the summertime, I want everybody to know that the release of my new book is called Adjusting the New Media, which is something that I'm working on right now, as well as a textbook for people in my class. But Pun and Fun It to me, and when I looked at the Sideline Sports group of shows, I'm not here to take their shows. I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel like there's anything I'm doing to jeopardize a good relationship at all, because I got enough on this plate. But when the opportunity came that Jordan was interested in changing nights and he wanted George Eichhorn and I, a couple of veteran hands, and we had an opening on Thursday, JB Ellis was very respectful of that. I said, any way that you can promote it on Sideline Sports, you do it. He did it successfully over on LinkedIn. And JB Ellis is one of the best people that I can say I've worked with. Now, I will say this, okay, here live on this stream, Jacob, George, Jordan, and Eric are all in my upcoming book. All of you guys are in it. There's a mention from everyone because I think everybody that makes a positive contribution to it deserves to be recognized. And I'm so proud that to have you guys working alongside of me. So, folks.
And we appreciate it. And I wanted to say this about Jen. They just had they have a show, the Three Chicks in a Pod. They just had the lady that helped bring down Dan Snyder. And helped change with the Redskins. They had that on their show. We get these type of people here. We get these women here. We get these men here. We get the best. And then think about that for a second. We get the best, and it's like and better than the rest. I have to say it.
Well, and I'll say this, okay. Jennifer Matthews Lewis, Candy Ebling, Megan Price, Kerry Johnson, they've done a wonderful job there. And I'm very thankful that J.B. Ellis got Candy connected with those ladies. These ladies are a bunch of sisters as far as I'm concerned, the way they go after things.
Mm-hmm.
And I am open to even Megan and Kerry coming on if they ever want to, but we know that Jennifer and Candy, along with what we have here, or what we have, any way that we can provide any kind of mutual, stuff, I'm all for it. But I'm really satisfied with the lucky 7 that we have. And I think you and Denzel and George, we can all agree that we have 7 of the best that will provide different viewpoints all the way around. So, we just want to make sure we spend a little bit of extra time here to let you know that, to me, every show that we're going to have going forward, and I'm proud of what we've done, but I'm a perfectionist. To me, I hate losing. Anybody knows that I'm the most intense individual on the planet, and losing is not an option. And when you surround yourself with good people, you're only as good as what you have on the air. I don't believe that any one person can take over a show, and just think that they're going to carry it on their back. I want to make sure there's depth across the board and there's no interruption at all across the board. I believe that everybody on a show deserves the same respect in terms of getting their opinions out there in a respectful manner. And I think those are the things that we're striving to improve here on the network. And that's why I'm very selective of who I bring on, and many of who I retain, and whom that may not be going with the program. well, it's just not a good fit. But I don't have a lot of those, but you never know if someone along those lines walks into the picture. So I know I've spent a lot tonight on both of our shows talking about talent, but you know what? Again, you want the best talent that you can, and you want cooperation and chemistry. And our goal is to educate and inform everyone. And I think we all share those visions here on our network. Any closing thoughts, Jacob?
Well, I'm just proud to be able to have this, and this is not a disrespect on Sideline Sports. I've had 3 years, and I'm still with them with 3 different shows, 2 full time and 1 part. I get on off the bench for the Gauntlet and stuff like that, so which I was on Friday. So it's like I'm still there. It's not that I've left them, but it's like I have a high respect. It's one of those things where it's like we've gone to the next level here.
Well, and I want to point out one thing about Sideline Sports, just so you know, Candy Ebling is going to be working more on their website this week and stepping it up. So the South Florida Tribune, just so you know, will be controlling the Sideline Sports website, and we're looking forward to being able to build that up and make sure it's a very presentable site to get whatever content they have on and attract writers that may not only be here, but they may also be on that if they play their cards correctly. George, any closing thoughts?
No, I'm just excited about it. I'm glad you guys were able to accommodate my schedule. I'm so happy about being part of it. I look forward to it. And, a sports magazine on the air is what I think of when I think of Pundits Pundit. I think about the days back when Scott and I and Phil Guastella used to have the show, and we had a 6-hour show, but we treated it as a sports magazine and examining, like you said, Jacob and Scott, the issues that some people won't examine, they won't take the time, or they're afraid to touch. But no, we have a range of topics that will excite everybody, will make people more intelligent on sports and society as a whole. So I'm again looking forward. I thank you very much for having me be part of it.
And there is, and I'm appreciate, and I'm going to say, and I'll say one more thing. This, everybody here, we all might vote the same or vote different. Just going to bring this part up. We're going to think differently. We're going to have all this differently. The more popular we get with this thing, the more we'll get the people. You get your haters. You get all that. I understand that. Understand this. We aren't going to get out of a subject for any reason just because it's too conservative, too liberal, too anything. This is the world. We're going to stop this whole everything is political crap. Oh, let's not say it because we might offend people. It's got to stop because this world is changing and people are just going to need to start living with it.
Yeah, which is a good reason why when he came up with our logo, came up with the world and then funded in it to validate what Jacob just said. Jordan, any thoughts?
I will say that, a lot of shows are just one-sided and we don't have discussion. The nice thing about Pundits Pundit is, yes, we may have all different ideas. And like Jacob said earlier, it's not, yelling, screaming. We sit and have a discussion, and that's what the world is missing. So definitely tune in because we actually sit and discuss, sometimes hard topics, and all going to be sports, but we sit here and discuss. And it's the greatest thing. We don't get in arguments. We understand each other. It's the best thing.
I'm a poor moderator if I see any yelling and I keep and things get out of control, and I'm not going to do that. No way. Because I'm harder on myself than anybody that's been around me, George, a long time ago. No, I can be really hard on myself. Eric, I know you're probably not going to be on Pundits Pundit a lot, but give me your thoughts about what it is, because you have other responsibilities that are every bit as important that I'm going to get to in just a moment. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I like the the creativity in the show. I like how it's not pulling any punches. Meaning, like, if you want to offend the people, so be it. But like as far as too liberal or too conservative, all I got to say is, in the words of Michael Jordan, they buy sneakers too.
Yeah. Yep. And I should point out, though, Eric is a huge part of what we're doing, because not only does he contribute very well in the baseball show, but especially this fall, he's going to be a very key part of Fire Up Wisconsin. So there's a lot of important news out there, and Candy Ebling will be on, and we're hoping to have Smoke and Jeremy be on as well. I think the 3 should make a very good tandem, but as we get further to that point, I'll make the official announcement of the exact crews on Fire Up Wisconsin. Well, but this is one of those kind of things where, you know what, every now and then we want to let everybody know what we have planned going ahead. And, you know, as we post them on social media, it's vitally important to realize that what we do, you know, we're methodical about what shows we need to do. Look at Candy. I'm like, she's like fired up about this. Like, Eric, you and her,
Of course.
it will revive
Fire
that.
Up is kind of like Carry On, that British film series.
Yeah,
There's
right.
50 fire ups, just like there's 50 carry ups.
All right, well, you know what? This has been a fun edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So before we get out of here, and I have to be at the airport in about 6 hours, okay, I'm going to let Jacob Christopher let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Oh, I never do anything. I'm into it. No. Sunday mornings now, the professor and the pupil and pupils. What you'll have with that. I mean, that's Saturday, Sunday morning. Mondays is the show with Denzel. It's the wrestling show called Off the Top Rope. It is the Sniper and the Pundit. And then here once in a while, back up, just depending on the time. Tuesdays off. Wednesdays, 2 shows now because of the Thursday. 2 shows. It is Sports Exchange and it's Confidential on Sideline. Right. Thursdays, 1 show with Pundit's Pundit. And then I'm a backup on the bench with the Gauntlet whenever they need me. So, and then I've got a couple scripts I'm working with, and we'll see what's going from there.
All right, now we know Candy Ebling, you know, one of the future topics that her and Eric will talk about will the Milwaukee Brewers stay in Milwaukee. I don't know. We'll talk about that later on, but just a little something she's putting out there. George, you're going to go last, so go ahead, Jordan.
You can find me here on 108 Stitches every Tuesday nights. I also have a blog that I write Mondays through Fridays, and sometimes with podcasts too at sports-scoop.com. You can follow me on Twitter at SportsScoop1. I am going to have a sports show. I'm still in the works on that, so be sure to listen here and watch here for more details on that.
All right, Eric.
Well, you can find me on my Twitter at Sports Team News, or you can find me on my blog at bellyupsports.com, where you can read about what I'm saying about your team.
All right, George.
2 authors here, Scott and me. Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air is my book, all about the history of sportscasting in Detroit and Michigan. And there's a link to purchase the book at the end of my column, which is at the Motor City Tribune and under the South Florida Tribune, of course. Also, you can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and at Twitter, or X as they call it now, SandG Sports 99. And you can find me on 108 Stitches and Pigskin and Sports Exchange and Pundit's Pundit. Glad to be part of that. And Scott, you know, I appreciate you being in that book of mine with Muhammad Ali and Jimmy Connors. And I know how excited you are too about getting your book out there, because I know you spent a lot of time writing and preparing for that.
Thank you, George. And definitely looking forward to seeing you in a couple of days. And for sure, I always like going back to my neck of the woods, even if it's for a few days, and it's going to be a good trip. It'll still be a busy one, and it'll go by fast, but I'm okay with that. Some information one more time for us. As you know, 108 Stitches Baseball Talk is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of this 108 Stitches Baseball Talk can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcast. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. My website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes. And I'm also going to be working with Dr. Edwin Hernandez on a lot of projects as well. So I'll go back to the comments before we call it a night. And where are we at? Well, Candy Ebling, look at that. Who's it there? She's going, I love it. Oh, I'll tell you, she's the greatest. There you go. Got to get those up, subscribe, and hear it from the boss. There you have it. Good stuff, Candy. So, meanwhile, great. Really delighted with the effort everybody provided tonight. And you know what? We're going to be back on schedule next Tuesday night for 108 Stitches baseball talk, as we will a lot of things that are going on. So, on behalf of Jacob Christner, George Eichhorn, Jordan Long, and let's see, hold on one second here. And Eric Katz. My name is Scott Moore, and all the great people.
I thought Eric was the one barking.
and all the great people that participated in the chat room. We want to thank you for joining us on this edition once again of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and we will see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody.